contemplate the workings of the inner being. Your eyes are wide open, but are you really seeing?
What day is it?
What day is this?
What year is
Month? What millennia is this?
Man, listen.
Yeah, my name is Ta.
My name is Cole.
We are Tahkole, and this is the Mentor in the Mirror podcast.
Welcome.
Back again.
Every time we hope that we're going to get more episodes cranked out, then I feel like less episodes get cranked out. So let's just say we're going to do it whenever it happens. No, I'm just playing. We're going to get back to regular. Now that we're set up in the house, our event schedule is getting planned. Our launch for the new program is in the works. I feel like now I'm getting some sort of routine back because, I've had like a day-by-day routine that has not continued beyond a day.
Yeah. I've been routinely using the facilities.
That's the only routine I've had. That's the only regularity I have maintained.
My handstand work.
Well, and not for nothing. I've been doing my steel mace workouts, which I feel very good about.
Awesome. Well, lots has been going on in the world, and we've been having this really big dialogue around racism. And I've been called in to be consulted around racism for companies, for individuals, for families, for a lot of social media stuff and what's been happening with people in regards to my perspective on racism and how it affects the body. So
yeah, well, in your webinar, we got amazing responses from, and that's when we really saw that the need right now for, well, let me first start by saying, most people are talking about diversity and diversification, and you have a really potent perspective on that I think is the new wave of human evolution that's going to be necessary for the changes that need to occur.
Well, I'm not the only person speaking about it. For sure. But the way I speak about it, I have found is just my angle on it. It's my slant on it. And it's a really important space that I don't think is being addressed as much as it could, should, and might need to be. And that's inclusivity. Now we have diversity, and diversity is, it's the recognition that things are different, right? And so,
but then the question is different from
what?
Right.
And so when you look at how diversification is utilized and how diversity in and of itself is utilized in our world, there is a supremacy mindset. There's a supremacy focus, and that supremacy in the space of racism is white supremacy for the most part.
Well, and diversification, when someone's talking about it, is the diversified from
what?
Right.
And so, there are different parts in the world where there are different kinds of racism, and there are diverse types of racism, right? Totally. We can talk about that. But when we talk about the racism that is currently under fire, it is the white supremacist racism that has a grapple hold on the entire planet. And the trickle down from slavery and the slave trades and how Christianity and all of this stuff is involved is a really interesting space. And so just, I'm not even going to get into the semantics of all of that because that's a whole other podcast
that we can get
into.
And not only that, a lot of that is that webinar. So if people want to hear more about that, you can go to tahkole.com/racism, check out that webinar, and that'll dive deeper context-wise into that.
Into racism and how it affects the body, how it's embedded in the body.
How it shows
and
up.
And how you can recognize it and what you could do, make moves to doing to reprogram. So the thing that we wanted to talk to y'all about today was inclusivity, and that's including people. And there are a lot of businesses and social icons and stuff that have started putting different people of different races and ethnicities on their photos and all of this other stuff. Yet in the background, there is not inclusivity, and there's not even a consideration of inclusivity of multiple cultures. They're just continuing the way they were continuing.
Right. It's more of like another way to hide what's really going on. It is that overt racism that you talk about in the webinar where people are really only putting off the image of diversity without inclusivity for the purpose of not getting hassled societally
Right.
now.
I mean,
or shamed or
it puts
attacked.
the fire out. Oh,
Right.
you're a racist. You don't have any. Oh, well, here's some black people.
Here's a pacifier. Shut up, get out of the way.
My person at the front desk is black.
Right.
You know, or Latino or Asian or whatever.
But they're not. Their voice isn't contributing to the organization.
It's not contributing to the organization,
Right.
and this is part of the issue, is that there is not inclusivity. And as a race of beings, I consider us the human race. All human beings on this planet are a race. We're not chimpanzees. We're not whales. We are human beings. So we.
I don't know. After that Mexican food today, I'm feeling a little whalish.
So we move together as a whalish. Asshole.
Bloated, bro, for real. Burrito baby.
So the inclusivity of all colors of skin, all languages spoken, all cultures followed, that is an inclusive space. And when you remove all possibilities, when you're looking to have a collective race of people who have limitlessness and limitless possibilities, the inclusion of all imaginative processes from all human beings is a space of inclusion that will make things grow and expand dramatically and differently than they are now.
Well, when you're talking about innovation, right? Like, let's just take it from the standpoint of innovation, human evolution. Without inclusivity, you lack perspective. Right? Like, if you just base everything off of your perspective and the people you surround yourself with that all think like you're not going to innovate from that space. There has to be other external, environmental, whatever, to trigger additional thought processes, right? To open other considerations in the mind, to conceive outside of what we know. Right. It's like when I look back at when I was, let's say, 14 years old, and I didn't drive a car, and I didn't know how easily I could be in different locations or what different types of freedom I could experience by having access to my own transportation. By being exposed to that, I learned that I have the ability to choose where I want to go. So it's like that was a terrible example, but not terrible, but I hope that made some sort of sense as far as if we were not exposed to that. Right? Like with the Quito tribe in Peru, they live at 19,000 feet. Most of them didn't see a car. At least our friend Luis then, his brother, their mom didn't see a car until 5 years ago right? They did not, that wasn't even in the context of existence, the idea of a car, because they're so high in the Andes. So as we continue in human evolution, whether it's technologically, in the health space or whatever, if we do not bring inclusivity to other perspectives, it is going to inhibit growth.
It will definitely inhibit growth. I mean, if you have somebody who's in the room who is a scientist, and they can add something to the pot and make things grow because of where they grew up, how they grew up, what their interaction with the environment was, and we do not include them, then things can get thwarted as far as expansion is concerned. And this is something that happened for a long time. You didn't have certain races of people included because of their race and their color, because they were considered less subhuman or less than worthy. So their perspectives weren't brought in, and things were halted and held back and slowed down. And how many things are we going to be halted in and slowed down with as human beings because we are not including people? And if we're going to talk about diversity, then we've got to talk about inclusivity, because diversity, as wonderful as diversity can be, and a recognition of different people, it is the breeding ground for racism. Because when you see things as different, you can partition things off and then exclude and oppress.
Well, and it's also not the invitation to join the conversation, right? It is a separate consideration, which is I'm going to acknowledge that we are different. That does not mean I'm going to consider your perspective, or your emotions, your feelings, or otherwise. We do it with children too, right? Like, there's quite often we don't listen to younger generations, not us, but as far as societally, because we do not perceive they have the experience. When every perspective, doesn't matter what age, gender, race, whatever, has a unique perspective that can change everything in your trajectory.
Well, I mean, this is, as
a leader, as a business owner.
This is true for everything. It's true for ageism. It's true for sexism. It's true for any of the isms. You know what I mean? When we exclude people, we do not get the full picture, and we do not listen to the full perspective of the people that are being oppressed or being shut out. And so diversity is awesome. It's awesome. Oh, I see there's Black people here, and there's Asian people here, and then there's Latino people here, and then there's Middle Eastern people here, and there's all these different types of people here. However, their voices are not being heard. Right. They're not being included, and it's dysfunctional because we are not seeing ourselves as a human race. We're seeing ourselves as these partitioned people, and it doesn't allow us to be together. And diversity is wonderful. Yeah, that's awesome. Preach diversity, teach diversity, and let's teach some inclusion.
Well, and that's the thing,
inclusivity,
right? And that isn't going to be the mechanism that deconstructs these oppressive systems. Just diversification and teaching diversity is, like you said, it's a great thing. It's necessary. It's needed in many ways. When it comes to dismantling oppressive systems, that's not going to take place without inclusivity. And so it is this, like, when I look at my own journey in moving out to New York, I moved there very young at 19. I lived in, Bushwick and Bed-Stuy, and where else did I live? Flatbush and Crown Heights, and I don't know, I lived lots of places in Brooklyn. And it wasn't until I lived in Brooklyn and was fully immersed in different cultures than mine that first I learned diversity, even just by recognizing like a person was Haitian or Jamaican or Trinidadian, right? I had to get a familiarity culturally of where someone could be from or the accents or whatever. And as I started to do that, when I started to learn and started to be able to direct questions, have more curiosity, then I realized that in our work now, how that helped me to understand diverse thought, diverse cultural backgrounds, diverse parenting styles, diverse whatever, that now with inclusivity is the invitation of the perspective to give me perspective,
right, which adds to the rainbow of things that you have in your arsenal of how to interact with people, yes. How you can interact with people, how you can experience people, how you can enjoy people, what to watch out for people. Mm-hmm. All of these things are inclusive. And when you are inclusive with these types of things, everybody can rest a little easier and everybody can expand and grow together. However, diversity, like I said, it can be an awesome space to explore. Mm-hmm. When you do not include people, it becomes a breeding ground for racism, totally. Or any other ism or any other oppressive mechanism to come in and wreak havoc. And it's just, I just really want to stress that is a big part of what we are doing with people, is showing them how to be inclusive and what that looks like. Are you including people in your summits, in your online summits? Are you including people in your staff meetings? One of the things when I was a nurse, they would have all of these meetings. Well, I'm still a nurse. Right? When I practiced as a nurse, they would have all of these meetings on how to revamp the emergency department. And, there were nurses there all the time, and we were always oppressed by the doctors, oppressed by the higher ups, by the administration and all this stuff. And then they would come inside, and I've seen many emergency rooms revamped, and they never asked the nurses once how they thought the ER should be partitioned, sectioned off, and designed. And it was always
and you're the
dysfunctional.
Ones using
We're the ones there most of the time doing everything. And so it was always dysfunctional. And this is another form of oppression, a corporate ladder oppression. All of these types of situations stop people from, now we could have had some really amazing ERs if we were allowed to be part of the committee, or if you have one person that talks to all the nurses and gets all of the agenda together from the nurses and bring it to the meeting with the administrators and the doctors and the physicians and the physicians assistants.
Well, that's the difference of a team and something that becomes a functional organism, right? Like if the hospital becomes a functional organism of healthy cells, aka people that are able to give perspective and how to help us do our job more efficiently, effectively, you're going to save more lives. You're going to be able to support each other,
right. And
the hospital itself would be more functional.
Right. And that's an inclusive situation, right. which I seldom saw. So, this exclusivity is an issue, VIP area, that is also something that I believe human beings got to do away with, is the VIP section for anything. Very important person is an exclusive situation, which stops people from being included, which is a form of bigotry. And so when I was working in the hospital and this stuff happened, it happened time and time again. And I got into a position where I was asking, hey, listen, can we be a part of and they would say no, flat out, no, no, there are experts from ERs all over the country that know how to do, and no, there was never any nurses in these panels of experts.
I was going to say, though,
never.
With any company I've ever worked at where the experts came in, very few ever even worked the field of whatever company, organization they were working for. I certainly never worked in medicine, but I can't tell you how many companies I worked for that the experts would come in and they would tell us how it's meant to be done. You couldn't question them.
Nope.
Your point of view, you were considered like a subordinate.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would ask questions of how long they even did it, few ever, or only initially at the very beginning of their career, even had the experience of that position.
And this is one of the things that I want to bring around. When you're considering dismantling racism, there are a lot of people who are in the anti-racist space who are, that I've spoken to. And this is only my vantage point. I'm not saying all anti-racist people are this way.
Right.
But there are a lot of people that are in the anti-racist space that are like, white people need to go fix their own stuff over there. Black people need to handle their own stuff over there and then come together at some point. But, we cannot have a space where we are dismantling a system that affects all people partitioned off like this, because then again, this is not being inclusive in the work. So yes.
Well, and then you have the white people trying to speak for black people as they teach other white people.
Right. And so, white people do have to do their own work.
For sure.
They do. And there are plenty of black people and other ethnic sects in the world that don't want white people in their business or don't want to help white people. And I completely understand, if somebody's been raping you all your life and you come to say sorry later on, let me help you. Nobody wants to hear about that. And so this is something that's been going on for a long time. However, blocking people out and not including people in the dialogue. The inclusion has to be in the dialogue. White people are in a place where a lot of them are in oblivion. They are in oblivion because they have been the norm their entire lives. And so they can go someplace and see an entire sea of white people and not feel funky about it. And then when they, and
not notice that there's no black people.
Notice that there's no black. Yeah. And when a black person comes in, I don't see color and that type of stuff. But black people have been kept out. But you notice
they haven't been there, or you didn't notice they haven't been there.
Right. And so these are the types of things that need to be seen. Mm-hmm. And so you bring black people in to show white people listen, this is what you haven't been seeing. This is what we've been seeing from this side. And so it's been affecting us and you haven't been affected. So let's get in and have an inclusive dialogue, an inclusive conversation. This for me, this is what's been working for me. It's been working for my friends. It's been working for our business. Yeah. This has been an inclusive dialogue.
Well, and it's also, people are still doing this polarity thing. So either black people don't want to deal with any white people, or they will. And there's no middle ground. And with white people, they're either anti-racist, trying to tear down every white coach or mentor they perceive isn't doing it right, or they don't care, right? These polarities that are happening on each side they're not ultimate universal truths.
Nope.
And it's important to remember that just because you even heard 3 black people say, I'm not trying to mess and teach and, whatever with white people, does not mean all. And for white people that maybe don't seem like they're doing it right does not make them anti-black.
Right.
It's that, what I'm inviting is for people that are in what Todd calls the no-larity space. Maybe you don't know what to do. Maybe you do want to be that ally. Maybe you want to be the black person that's like, I'm in for the convo. I'll sit and talk to white people. Cool. And you want to be a consultant. Like, we're going to start training people how to do what we do. The question is, where are the conversations for the people that are these bridges? Where are the people that are like, no, I'm here. I just maybe need some help learning how to communicate and invite people into conversation, right, without unintentionally or intentionally using shame or guilt as a device to manipulate or to hurt or to jab or whatever. And I feel like so many people are afraid to speak up because they don't want to be perceived as anti-black or that they are a racist when we are all participating in racism.
We are all participating in a system of racism,
Consciously or not.
And consciously or not,
Yeah.
it's not that we are being racist. We are participating in a system that is inherently racist. It is racism. And so, you know, when you are in a space where you create exclusivity, you are going to get the same type of shit we've been dealing with for a long time. And so the tables have turned now, and now it's like, you know, there's this exclusive club, and it's black people, right? And we are exclusive, and, you know, y'all gotta wait.
Yeah.
And I get it, and I'm in it, and I hear it. And, you know, white people, yes, you do have to wait. However, I want you to be a part of the dialogue. I want to see how you feel about this, because my feelings for so long were not cared for. My feelings were ignored. My feelings weren't heard by all the white people that I know. And it was like, oh, no, that's all right. You know, that was 200 years ago. This is how it was. And so for me as a black person to turn around and ignore white people's feelings is doing the same thing. And I believe it's counterintuitive.
Well, you also did your own work, which brings you to a space of bringing back that consideration, which is why I think where you are, and where I am.
Right. And you know, but I mean, there's the whole topic on white fragility and white people being, you know, crying and now they're victims and they're hurt because of all of this stuff that's going on. I get all of that. Yeah. And the dialogue still has to happen. If you are a white person and you don't know how racism has been affecting things in the background, and now you get hip to it, and now you're starting to feel guilty and shame and all this other stuff. For a person that is not white to berate you and beat you and call you shameful and all of that stuff is just as dysfunctional as.
Well, it's not going to change anything.
It's not.
It's
going to keep the same shit going
for sure. But this is my point, right? So let's say that, you know, if you're listening right now, you're a white person, you feel very attacked very easily. This actually doesn't have to do with black people. This has to do with your individual relationship to your power, to speaking your truth, to knowing yourself. Because the thing is, like, now, no, I'm not talking 10 years ago, I'm talking now, someone can scream me out. Doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't go into my heart because I know who I am. Because I know my intention, because I have put so much time and energy into learning communication skills and approaching people with curiosity. And I know I'm not out to get anyone, that I can hold a different space for myself and for the other person. So I don't have that fear and I don't get flustered easily. So I feel like, you know, for any white folks listening, if you feel like you've got the fire lit under your ass to go make change, going and approaching any black person you see to see, what can I do? Pump the brakes. Slow down. You have some learning to do first before you start diving into all of this stuff. That's why we are creating these programs. One for, you know, anyone that wants to actually coach this for businesses, communication, inclusivity, and one for people that are like, I don't know how to have these conversations. I want to learn. I don't know where to start. And we're not talking about like the depths of Black history necessarily. We're talking about the depths of inclusivity and how to start uplifting the voices that need to be out in the marketplace in your industry.
Not even need to, but can be. I think this is an opportunity for us to really expand the potentials of all that there is by giving people opportunity. And it's not doing them a favor because they're black. It's just opening the gates so that a person that is qualified can actually be seen.
Yeah.
And I think that inclusivity has to start now.
Agreed.
And you know, this is like, even if you're just letting people come and witness shit in the boardroom.
Yep.
You know, hey, listen, all right, cool, we got the board happening. Here are 10, 15 seats for whoever wants to come. We'll rotate people in to the board meetings, just people from whoever decides that they want to come to the board meeting. And let's hear what your ideas are. Let's hear it.
Submit them. What's your take on it?
Let's hear it. And if somebody has a great idea, bring them on. Include them in, you know, give them an upgrade in their position in your company. When you look at some of these organization.
When you look at some of these like really, we'll say Richard Branson, and this isn't, I don't know where he stands as far as inclusivity or who he works with. I don't know anything about his organization. What I do know as a businessman where he's come from is that anyone I know that's worked with him says he always asks questions. He's looking for perspective constantly. And I feel like the most solid leaders, the ones that are really going to be developing these new systems of healthcare, of fitness, of finance, of whatever, are the ones that are coming from a place of inclusivity for perspective, innovation, and to really be the leaders of their industry from a space of having their own self-awareness of where some of their blind spots are around. I mean, it could be around racism, but this really applies to everything. Until you understand where your blind spots are, you're not going to spot them in your team, and you're not going to spot them in your business.
Nope. So, inclusivity. Include everyone, no matter what their race is, no matter what their sex is, no matter what their gender is.
IQ.
And they are different.
Yep.
IQ, if they're in a wheelchair or on crutches, if they have one leg or two fingers, it doesn't make a difference. It makes a difference, a huge difference when you include people. Mm-hmm. We are all people. We are all human beings. These ideas that something is less than human or not functional because of their skin color or whatever it's bullshit. And the people have been deprived of education because of their skin tone. People have been deprived of money, finances, places to live, food, all of these
relationships.
Things. We've got to include everyone in having. Mm-hmm. And that includes healthcare, that includes wellness, that includes education, that includes the places that you live, that includes having a safe neighborhood, that includes all of this stuff. Every human being.
Agreed. Well said, baby.
Thank you. So we love you, and we thank you so much for including us in your idea of patience, because we've been away for a little while, and we appreciate it. We've been recalibrating, and we've been doing a lot of really awesome stuff. A lot of
redirecting, man.
And a lot of holding space for people. People, my phone has been off the chain.
And our grandkids are here.
For the past couple of weeks. And so thank you so much for your patience. And we are going to be in here on some more episodes, giving you some more love. If there's anything that you want to hear about, please let us know. If you have any questions on racism and how it affects the body and how it's programmed into your body and how to deprogram it. If you're interested in having us come out to your company and speaking to your team.
We're going to start doing 3-day and even 2-day trainings for companies to teach about inclusivity and actual processes to do so. If you go to Tahkole.com, that's just TAHKOLE.com, or hit us up on Instagram, Tahkole. We're going to be doing these in 2-day trainings. We're going to be doing them in weekend intensives. We're going to be doing online training for companies and individual small business owners in that 5-6 or that 6-figure range. So, if you haven't already done it, please take a moment right now to go and leave a review. We got 2 amazing ones this week that I really appreciate. That means everything to us. That comes to us directly right to my phone. It changes my day. It lights it up. And it's so appreciated that you'll take that 30 seconds to leave us 5 stars, leave that review. And if you haven't shared this with a friend, make it happen, Cap'n, because this is how we get these conversations in alignment with the people around us.
My name is Sa.
My name is Cole. This is Mentor in the Mirror podcast. Until next time,
be free.